Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe and support me. The Silvermoon Kingdom had always been a land of mystery, an isolated realm of beauty and magic, where silver trees shimmered under the pale light of 1,000 enchanted lanterns. It was said that its king, Aldrin, wielded ancient power, a force untouched by the passage of time. In Middle-earth, whispers of his growing influence had begun to spread, rumors that sent unease through the minds of even the wisest of wizards. And so, it was Gandalf who found himself burdened with the task of uncovering the truth. The Council of Wizards had called upon him, their voices filled with urgency as they spoke of Aldrin's plans to extend his power far beyond his borders. It wasn't just the free peoples who might fall under his dominion but even the dark forces, as King Aldrin sought to unite both light and shadow under his rule. Gandalf, knowing well the delicate balance that held Middle-earth together, could not ignore the threat. The fate of all lands depended on stopping Aldrin before his ambition unleashed chaos upon the world. The journey ahead was perilous, but there was no one better suited for the task. The road to Silvermoon was long and treacherous, winding through dense forests and across jagged mountains. Gandalf traveled with a purpose, his staff clutched tightly in his hand, his cloak trailing behind him as he pressed onward. As the days passed, he encountered signs of Aldrin's influence creeping outward to villages once thriving now darkened by the promise of power. The people spoke in hushed tones, their eyes flickering with a greed they had never known before. Aldrin's promises had poisoned their hearts. One evening, as Gandalf camped by a quiet stream deep within the forest, a figure approached from the shadows. A young elf, her golden hair shimmering in the moonlight, stepped cautiously into the clearing. Her name was Allure, and she hailed from a small elven kingdom on the outskirts of Silvermoon. "I've been sent to guide you," she said, her voice soft but filled with urgency. "King Aldrin's power grows stronger every day. We fear what he plans." Gandalf nodded, grateful for the assistance. "Then you know what I seek. Tell me, Allure, what have you seen?" She hesitated for a moment before speaking. "The people of Silvermoon have changed. They are no longer content with peace. Aldrin promises them something greater: immortality, power beyond imagination. But there is a darkness to it. His magic is not like anything we've seen before. It feels so broken, bar twisted." Her words only confirmed Gandalf's suspicions. He knew Aldrin's magic was ancient, but if he sought to manipulate both light and dark forces, the consequences could be catastrophic. "We must hurry," Gandalf said, rising from his place by the fire. "There is no time to waste." Together, they pressed on through the forest, moving swiftly toward the Silvermoon Kingdom. Along the way, they encountered more signs of Aldrin's growing influence. Villages that had once been vibrant and filled with life were now eerily quiet. People wandered the streets with hollow eyes, their thoughts consumed by the pursuit of magical power promised by their king. Gandalf knew what such promises led to: a corruption, destruction, the fall of kingdoms. But Aldrin was not like the Dark Lords Gandalf had faced before. His power was seductive, cloaked in beauty and grandeur, drawing people in before they realized what they had lost. As they neared Silvermoon, the landscape began to change. The trees grew taller, their silver leaves gleaming under the faint light that filtered through the thick canopy. The air was cooler, tinged with the scent of magic. At last, they reached the borders of the kingdom. Silvermoon was as beautiful as it was dangerous. Its towering spires reached toward the sky, their gleaming surfaces reflecting the stars above. The streets were lined with silver trees that glowed faintly in the night, casting a soft light over the city. At the center of it all stood the Silvermoon Citadel, a massive fortress that radiated power. As they entered the city, Gandalf and Allure moved cautiously through the streets, keeping to the shadows. The people of Silvermoon, dressed in flowing robes of silver and white, walked with an air of superiority, their eyes glowing with the promise of something greater. Gandalf could feel the magic in the air, pulsing through the city like a living thing. They made their way toward the citadel, where Gandalf had requested an audience with King Aldrin. The king had agreed to meet with him, though Gandalf suspected that Aldrin saw the meeting as little more than a formality. He had already made his decision, and no amount of negotiation would change his course. Still, Gandalf had to try. The great hall of the citadel was as grand as the rest of the kingdom. Tall columns of silver lined the room, and at the far end sat Aldrin on a gleaming throne. The king was tall and regal, his silver hair cascading over his shoulders, his eyes filled with the confidence of one who believed himself invincible. "Gandalf," Aldrin said as the wizard approached, his voice smooth and commanding. "It is an honor to have you here in my kingdom." "I've heard much of your wisdom, and I've heard much of your ambition," Gandalf replied, his tone measured but firm. "You seek to unite the powers of light and darkness. You must know the dangers that path brings." Aldrin smiled, though there was no warmth in it. "Danger is a matter of perspective, Gandalf. The world is changing. Darkness is inevitable, whether we embrace it or not. Why not harness it? Why not use it to create something greater, something that will last for eternity?" "You speak of balance, yet your actions threaten to destroy it," Gandalf said. "The power you seek is not meant for one man to wield. It will consume you, just as it has consumed others before you." Aldrin's eyes darkened. "I am not like others, I am destined for something far greater." Gandalf could see that words would not sway the king. Aldrin's mind was set, his ambition too great to be tempered by reason. But there was something else, something hidden beneath the surface. Gandalf sensed doubt, not in Aldrin, but in those around him. As the conversation ended, Gandalf's attention turned to Lady Seraphina, Aldrin's chief mage. She stood silently beside the king, her gaze distant, as if she were wrestling with some internal conflict. She was known for her mastery of light magic, a powerful sorceress in her own right, but something in her posture, in the way her eyes flickered toward Gandalf, suggested she was not entirely aligned with Aldrin's vision. As Gandalf and Allure left the citadel, the wizard turned to his companion. "There is more to this than ambition. Aldrin is powerful, yes, but he is not without opposition." "Lady Seraphina?" Allure guessed. Gandalf nodded. "She may hold the key to stopping this madness. We need to speak with her, and quickly." Over the next few days, Gandalf and Allure moved discreetly through the kingdom, gathering information and making contact with those who opposed Aldrin's rule. There were many who had once believed in Aldrin's vision but had since grown weary of his obsession with power. They feared what might happen if the ancient ritual Aldrin was preparing succeeded. The ritual would open a rift between the realms of light and darkness, granting Aldrin control over both forces but at the cost of destabilizing the very fabric of Middle-earth. It was in the quiet quarters of the citadel, late one night, that Gandalf and Lady Seraphina finally met in secret. "You must stop him," she whispered, her voice trembling. "He believes he can control it, but the power he seeks will destroy him, and it will destroy all of us." Gandalf regarded her carefully. "You have the power to stop him, Seraphina. You know the dangers better than anyone." Seraphina looked away, her hands trembling. "He was my king, my friend. I thought I could help him, but Brokenbara was wrong. His ambition has blinded him." "Then you must act now, before it is too late," Gandalf urged. Seraphina closed her eyes, her face filled with sorrow. "I have been working on a counterspell, something that could neutralize the power of the ritual. But it is dangerous. If I fail, the consequences will be catastrophic." Gandalf placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You will not fail. Together, we can stop this." The tension in the kingdom continued to grow as the night of the ritual approached. Aldrin's followers grew bolder, their eyes alight with the promise of power. Even the once loyal citizens of Silvermoon had begun to turn, their desires twisted by the allure of immortality. On the eve of the ritual, Gandalf, Allura, and a small group of resistance fighters prepared for their final stand. The fate of Middle-earth now rested in their hands. As the night of the ritual drew near, Gandalf could feel the shift in the air. The kingdom of Silvermoon was alive with anticipation, its streets buzzing with the energy of those who believed they were on the cusp of something extraordinary. It had been days since Gandalf had met with Lady Seraphina, and since then, she had been working tirelessly in secret, preparing her counterspell. Now, it was time to act. Gandalf, along with Allure and a small band of resistance fighters, moved silently through the streets, their destination clear, the Silvermoon Citadel. The glowing trees that once seemed so peaceful now appeared ominous, their light casting long shadows across the cobblestone roads. The citadel loomed ahead, its spires gleaming against the darkening sky. Inside, Aldrin and his followers were preparing to perform the ritual that would forever alter the fate of Middle-earth. As they approached the entrance, Gandalf glanced at Allura. The young elf was nervous, her eyes darting around as if expecting an ambush at any moment. He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Stay close to me," he whispered. "We must be swift." They slipped through the outer gates without incident, their movements carefully planned to avoid the patrols that had been stationed around the perimeter. Inside the citadel, the air was thick with the scent of incense and the hum of magical energy. The halls were lined with followers of Aldrin, their expressions filled with reverence for what was about to happen. They had no idea of the danger they were about to unleash. Gandalf led the group deeper into the citadel, navigating the winding corridors with precision. They passed several rooms where preparations were being made, altars adorned with ancient symbols, books of dark magic spread open on wooden tables, and glowing crystals humming with energy. Gandalf could feel the magic in the air, pulsing like a heartbeat, growing stronger with each passing moment. Finally, they reached the central chamber. The doors were tall and imposing, etched with silver runes that pulsed faintly in the dim light. Gandalf motioned for the group to stop. "This is it," he whispered. "Aldrin will be inside, performing the ritual. We must stop him before it is too late." He turned to Lady Seraphina, who had joined them in secret once more. Her face was pale, her hands trembling as she clutched the parchment that held her counterspell. "Are you ready?" Gandalf asked. Seraphina nodded, though her fear was evident. "I only hope it will work." "It will," Gandalf said with quiet conviction. "We have no other choice." With that, they pushed open the doors to the central chamber. The sight that greeted them was one of both beauty and terror. The room was vast, its high ceilings decorated with intricate silver carvings that seemed to shimmer in the flickering light of 1,000 candles. At the center of the room stood Aldrin, his arms raised high as he chanted in a language older than time itself. Around him, his most loyal followers knelt in reverence, their eyes closed as they bathed in the energy emanating from their king. Above Aldrin, suspended in the air by powerful magic, was the Ebon Star, a dark, swirling mass of energy that pulsed with a menacing glow. The ritual had begun. Gandalf stepped forward, his voice booming through the chamber. "Aldrin, stop this madness before it is too late." Aldrin did not lower his arms, but his eyes flicked toward Gandalf. A smile tugged at the corners of his mouth, filled with both arrogance and amusement. "Too late? You misunderstand, Gandalf. It is only now that the true power of Middle-earth will be realized. The power you seek will destroy us all," Gandalf warned. "You cannot control it." Aldrin's smile widened. "I am no fool, Gandalf. I know the risks, but I also know the rewards. With the power of the Ebon Star, I will bring a new era to Middle-earth, one where light and dark are united under my rule. The free peoples will no longer cower before the forces of shadow. They will kneel before me." "You are blinded by ambition," Gandalf shouted. "You will tear the very fabric of our world apart." Aldrin's gaze hardened, and his voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "So be it." In an instant, the room erupted into chaos. Aldrin's followers surged to their feet, drawing weapons and hurling spells toward Gandalf and his group. Gandalf raised his staff, a shield of light erupting from its tip as he blocked the first wave of attacks. Allura, quick on her feet, darted forward, her bow in hand, loosing arrows with deadly precision. The resistance fighters fought bravely, their swords flashing in the dim light as they clashed with Aldrin's loyalists. At the center of it all, Aldrin continued his chant, the power of the Ebon Star growing with every word. The air crackled with energy, and the ground beneath them began to tremble as the ritual neared completion. Serafina, her face etched with determination, stepped forward, the parchment containing her counterspell clutched tightly in her hand. She began to chant, her voice clear and strong, even as the battle raged around her. A golden light began to glow around her, growing brighter with each word. Aldrin's eyes flicked toward her, his expression darkening. "Serafina!" he roared. "You dare betray me?" Serafina's voice did not waver as she continued the counterspell, her hands shaking as the golden light intensified. "You have gone too far, Aldrin. I cannot let you destroy our world." Aldrin's fury was palpable. He raised his hands, summoning a wave of dark magic that surged toward Serafina. But before it could reach her, Gandalf intervened, his staff glowing with a brilliant white light as he deflected the attack. "You will not harm her," Gandalf said, his voice filled with resolve. The room shook violently as the conflicting magics clashed. The ebon star above them began to pulse faster, its dark energy threatening to spiral out of control. Aldrin's face twisted in rage as he realized that his ritual was being disrupted. "Enough!" Aldrin bellowed, his voice booming through the chamber. With a flick of his wrist, he sent a powerful shock wave through the room, knocking Gandalf and Serafina to the ground. Serafina gasped, clutching the parchment as she struggled to her feet. She was running out of time. The ebon star was growing more unstable with each passing moment, and if she did not complete the counterspell soon, all would be lost. Gandalf staggered to his feet, his eyes locked on Aldrin. He could see the madness in the king's eyes, the insatiable hunger for power that had consumed him. Aldrin was beyond reason now, driven by his ambition to the point of no return. "You are not a god, Aldrin," Gandalf said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "You are a man, and like all men, you will fall." With that, Gandalf raised his staff high, summoning all the power he had left. A blinding flash of light erupted from the tip of his staff, filling the chamber with a brilliance so intense that it seemed to pierce the very fabric of reality. Aldrin cried out, his eyes burning with fury as he staggered back, momentarily blinded by the light. It was all the opportunity Serafina needed. She raised the parchment high, her voice ringing out as she spoke the final words of the counterspell. A surge of golden light erupted from her, shooting toward the ebon star. The dark mass of energy began to waver, its pulsating glow faltering as Serafina's magic took hold. For a moment, it seemed as though the counterspell would succeed. The ebon star began to shrink, its dark energy dissipating under the force of Serafina's magic. But then, with a deafening roar, Aldrin unleashed a final burst of power, his dark magic colliding with the golden light of the counterspell. The room was consumed in a blinding explosion of light and darkness, the forces of magic tearing through the air with unimaginable power. The walls of the citadel shook violently, cracks spider-webbing across the stone as the very foundation of the kingdom trembled. When the light finally faded, the chamber was in ruins. The once beautiful hall was now a shattered shell, its silver walls crumbling, the air thick with the acrid smell of magic and smoke. At the center of the devastation, Aldrin lay motionless, his body broken and lifeless. The ebon star had vanished, its power extinguished by the clash of light and dark. Gandalf rose slowly from the ground, his body aching from the battle. He looked around, his heart heavy with sorrow. The kingdom of Silvermoon had been saved, but at a terrible cost. Serafina lay nearby, her body still glowing faintly with the remnants of her magic. She had succeeded, but the strain of the counterspell had been too much. Gandalf knelt beside her, his face filled with grief as he placed a hand on her shoulder. "You were brave, Serafina," he whispered. "Your sacrifice will not be forgotten." Allure approached, her face pale as she surveyed the destruction around them. "It's over," she said softly,